American Ultralux Vintage. I'm giving you my first thoughts, some context, and my reactions on this new series, which I'll tell you at the top, I'm actually very excited about, and I'll tell you why. Hey, it's John from Playing Trade Guitars, and if you like new guitar reviews and informative buyer's guides, hit subscribe and join this community of guitar players. I'll tell you what, this Ultralux is filling a hole in the top end of Fender that I think they're listening, and I think they're doing some things which, if I was sitting at the drafting board and trying to come up with ideas for their top of the line instruments, some of this I actually like. So let's dive into that. Let's check out the new models briefly here. We've got an Ultralux Vintage 50s Telecaster. And basically, if you take one of my favorite series, which is American Vintage 2, but you apply all the right modern appointments to it, and raise the price tag a little bit, don't worry, we'll get there. We'll get there when we get to my reaction. You're gonna get something which fulfills the perfect blend of vintage and modern. And for a long time now, if you've watched my videos, I have basically said that if you are looking for the all-around winning series that combines everything Fender has to offer, it wasn't Ultra, it wasn't Ultralux. I actually continually kept coming back to American Professional 2 for some of the same reasons that they've now incorporated into this much higher end Ultralux Vintage, including traditional single coil pickups. I feel like every time I kept knocking on the top end of Fender, they're trying to give me noiseless pickups. I don't need them. Here's one thing I'll love right away. This Vintage 50s Tele has got 51 vintage single coil pickups, the same that you'd find in the American Vintage 2 series. However, what do? You get some amazing modern appointments. Things like a compound radius. Instead of the 7¼ inch vintage radius, which a lot of people complain about because it's more humped, it's more pronounced, this is a 10 inch to 14 inch compound radius. That means that in cowboy chord territory, you're gonna have a more modern playing experience like you'd find on any other modern Fender. And then as you get to the upper register, you actually have a flat fretboard, even flatter than a Gibson, 14 inch radius. It's like a speed machine. And to get up into that upper register on a Telecaster, you even have now a contoured heel. But you also have a nitrocellulose finish. So now we're taking, again, vintage and modern. And I've always broken apart my view of Fender into, do you want a contemporary modern player, or do you want a vintage inspired instrument? And that's really gonna drive my recommendation to anybody buying a guitar. I will tell you, if you're buying any guitars, including the new Ultralux series, you can check out the finishes, in-stock models with pictures of the actual guitars by serial number, weight, and all the essentials. Just click my link down below or scan this QR code. You can shop on your smartphone. There's also a lot of great affordable alternatives. You can watch my series on affordable Telecasters, Strats, and the works. I've got plenty of that here on Playing Trade Guitars. But here's what I'll say, best of both worlds. Nitrocellulose finish, it looks like they've even aged it with a little bit of like checking, because we're talking price-wise an instrument that is in like custom shop territory, or at least custom shop resale territory. And probably who they're taking on is the boutique builders of the world that are charging close to $3 grand for their instruments. You know, builders like Tom Anderson or Nash Guitars, who have traditionally taken Telecasters and Stratocasters and souped them up into kind of the perfect modern experience. Fender is doing their take, and it says Fender on the headstock, which I can definitely appreciate. Locking tuners. You've got a modern truss rod adjustment. So I love those American Vintage 2 guitars, but here you've got a modern adjustable truss rod without having to, you know, get down in that neck or loosen the neck or anything like that. 6 saddles instead of 3, but they do have brass. In the 50s models, you have an ash body. In the 60s models, you have alder. The Telecasters will retain the steel bridge, but without the ashtray feel. It's a more modern 6-saddle kind of playable. You can rest your hand a little more comfortably. You have contoured bodies. You have an S1 switch for more series parallel options when you're putting those Tele pickups into series. I'll tell you what, you go straight into like humbucker territory. You turn that Tele into a giant humbucker. So all these attributes, I'll tell you, I'm actually excited about. And it always kind of killed me that I couldn't recommend the Ultra series to a lot of friends who would ask, hey, what's like the ideal Telecaster if I want kind of the perfect Fender experience, modern and all that, and I don't care what it costs. And I just kept going back to American Professional 2, still one of my favorite series. But if you're telling me you could take American Vintage 2 and add to it a lot of these modern performance elements, I do really like that. You've got traditional single coils, 51 vintage voice single coil pickups on here. You've got the nitrocellulose aged finish. So even on the back of some of these, it looks like, I mean, I can't tell from their promo if they're all looking like this. And by the way, I have all these on order, so we'll find out. You've got these contoured bodies, which you will not find on, obviously, an American Vintage 2. I'll tell you, I actually prefer the slab body of a traditional Telecaster. I don't need the comfort cuts, but they're there, and I know a lot of people love them. So there you go. Let's also look at the Vintage 50s Strat. I mean, here again, S1 switching, 6-saddle design, 2-point modern tremolo, but you have a lot of the vintage aesthetic, which I think looks great. So basically, I would sum this series up. It's looking like it's vintage aesthetic with modern playability at the high end, which was sorely lacking because everything like Ultra Luxe used to be, hey, let's put a Floyd Rose on this, or let's put noiseless pickups. Let's soup it up and make it like, I don't know, a high gain monster or something. Whereas this is like, if you just gave me a vintage guitar but souped it up with modern appointments and took it a step above American Professional 2, which I hold so near and dear to my heart, you would arrive at American Ultra Luxe Vintage. So I think a lot of this, they've been listening and paying attention, and I think that that's pretty cool. Here we have the Vintage 60s, obviously a rosewood fretboard. This is gonna be an alder body instead of ash. I love that 3-ply pickguard. Here again, we have the 61 Strat single coil pickups, but you get S1 switching. And I just love that you have these modern appointments. You got clay dots. And on the Stratocaster as well, you can add the HSS. It's a little bit more. But the HSS, if you like a fat Strat, as a lot of people do, you're gonna have all that built in from the factory. So that is cool. Check out the seafoam green, which I think looks really sharp. And you actually have a Haymaker humbucker in bridge. So what is a Haymaker humbucker? Well, I'll tell you what, when I do the full review of these guitars, I'll let you know. We'll do the tone test right here. But I love that. I think they're doing some cool stuff here. I mean, again, every time I look at these, it's like, oh, okay, so they started with American Vintage 2 series and then just souped it up modern without putting noiseless pickups. And I actually dig it. I like this Lake Placid blue. It looks like a metallic finish. And basically, it's like just the top of the top line Fender. Now, it is a lot more expensive. Of course, it is made in America. Of course, you know, the experience of playing one of these guitars probably can be emulated for less money, but they're just expensive. So what I tell you is hit subscribe because I have all these guitars coming and I want to review them on the channel before I make a final decision. But I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What do you make of this series? Is it tailored towards the right customer? I mean, do people want the vintage aesthetic with modern playability, or has it already been satisfied in Fender's American Vintage 2 series, serving kind of the vintage collector aesthetic, or people who really dig that? And I love that series. And does Ultra are already suitably tailored towards, you know, the high-end player who wants the modern appointments, the noiseless pickups? This is trying to meet somewhere in the middle. It's like if you took American Professional 2 and put it on steroids, this is what you'd arrive at. I find it compelling. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What do you think? If you are in the market for these guitars, do me a huge favor and click to buy new gear using my link. It's a win-win because you get fast, free shipping. You get easy payment plans. And if you're buying a high-end guitar like Ultra Luxe Vintage, it makes it a lot easier when you take advantage of the payment plans. I'm telling you, no interest, simple, a lot easier to buy high-end gear. But as I think of this, I mean, I'll just kind of now just spit off the top of my head some alternatives. The first one obviously being American Professional 2. If you want the blend of modern and vintage in one package for, well, I don't want to say half the price, but close to it, American Vintage 2 will do that. Now, when it comes to value, these are obviously expensive and a lot more expensive than other options. But because I've been seriously asked by people, what's the high-end model that I should buy if I don't want a Vintage 2, at least now we have the comparable model because Fender always splits into vintage and contemporary, or vintage and modern. And because of that, they've gone, I think, parallel with Vintage 2 and given us a series that respects the vintage aesthetic but gives the modern playability. And in that sense, I can applaud them, and I am excited to demo these guitars, and I will have that on the channel. So I'll remind you to hit subscribe. If you're in the market for any gear, click to buy new gear using my link or scan this QR code. And really, the point of this video is just to tell you that I should think this is pretty compelling. I'm excited to see what they feel like, what they sound like, and of course I'll tell you. But let me know in the comments, what do you make of everything from the feature set here to the price hike? What do you make of this? Is this something that you're interested in? Who do you think will be the type of buyer for this guitar? Is this geared towards a professional player who might be shopping other boutique names? I mean, what is the kind of person who's going to be interested in this guitar with this price tag? I'd love to hear from you because it informs my reviews, and anything that you put in the comments, I'll consider as I make the demos for each of these guitars. So, as always, I really appreciate you being here on Play and Trade Guitars. I'm John. I'll talk to you in the comments. I'll have full reviews on these guitars coming shortly. And remember to scan this QR code or shop gear using my link and hit subscribe. And I'll tell you what, if you like Gibson, this red Les Paul Standard is going to one of you very soon when we hit 100,000 subscribers. I'm giving away that guitar. Subscribe, you've got to be subscribed to win. You got to sign up down below and shop gear down below. Can't wait to get these guitars in my hands. Until next time, keep playing. See you soon.